of Dog Sports Live. We are still relishing in the national championship season here for a little bit longer. National Signing Day was snuck in there, but we're still thinking and celebrating our national championship. Georgia Bulldogs. Today, I've got Greg Poole and Vance Levy. These are the brains and brawn behind Bulldawg Illustrated, which is I'm one of the go-to magazines and coverage that you need to learn about Georgia and stuff. So, and Vance is the publisher, and his wife Cherie. They also do the guide to Athens, and I'm sure you've seen it in and around the classic city. Good morning, guys.
Hey,
Morning,
Josh.
guys.
Thanks a bunch for having us on.
Oh man, it was great. I got a sneak peek of the championship magazine, and it is outstanding. We're going to share some images with you guys and tell you how you guys can get your copy. Greg is the photographer, one of the photographers that takes many of these out. I mean, if you like Sports Illustrated, you're getting the same kind of stuff, except you get all of Georgia on it. Greg is awesome, and the writing, you've got so many names that you know from Kevin Butler to Lauren and oh shoot, Jeff Dantzler's on there. So I mean, this is just awesome. It is really, really awesome. So, all right, Vance, for anybody that doesn't know about Bulldawg Illustrated, tell us how you took this labor of love on for us.
Yeah, well, my first of all, my family's been in the newspaper business down in the Golden Isles for 120 years. I owned and operated the Brunswick News, which is the daily newspaper. So, 20 years ago, I had a group of buddies. We went to about 10 Final Fours in a row, and I think it might have been our last trip because as we hit our 30s, it was no longer fun being in a hotel room with 5 guys for 4 nights. But I picked up this thing called Jayhawk Insider, which of course we were staying in the Kansas's hotel in New Orleans. That was actually when Roy lost and was heading his way to UNC the next day. But anywho, this thing, the Jayhawk Insider, was all about basketball. And I'm like, man, we're the reverse of Kansas. We're mostly football who would love to have a basketball, steady basketball team, whereas Kansas is mainly all basketball, trying to find that football. So I brought it home and showed it to Cherie, and thankfully she immediately said, yeah, let's do it, but we've got to have a social element. So, and I think that's, even Claude Felton has told me from day one, Vance, I know y'all got lots of good sports, but I like to see all the people in it. So that sort of began. Then I'd just gotten to know Jeff Dantzler. He'd been down to talk to the Bulldog Club down here, stayed the night with us. And I was like, hey, man, I got an idea. You got the time, I got the dime. That was my joke to him, which wasn't even true at the time. So, yeah. And then, back when we started it, and I don't want to get too long with this, but we immediately all right, we'll have a preview in the summer, and then back then we took one of the lesser opponents off. We just didn't do an issue, which quickly became odd for people, but it was more so doing it weekly. I felt like our team needed a break.
That's a grind. I mean, you guys putting out a magazine. I mean, it feels like as soon as you leave the game, you guys have got to already get back to work on the next one. I mean, it's an incredible turnaround. It really is.
Yeah, Greg and all the photographers are getting all their stuff in post game. Any of the fan photos that Cherie and I have taken, if we're lucky enough to have an early game, we get to go home and listen to football on the television in the background and start processing those photos. And on a real good night, I might even get the cut lines matched to them. But either way, generally I'd go to sleep on a Saturday night with those things at least edited, ready for me to wake up Sunday. And then it's basically 8 a.m. till we get it done. Anywhere from 7 p.m. Sunday till, on a bad night, 11 or midnight.
So I guess I was going to drop this question in later, but it seems a good time to ask it. So after we win, so are you able to celebrate, or are you already thinking about putting together this magazine, this championship edition, and I mean, for me, when I was sitting there looking at it, I felt like maybe I got to take a step back from trying to crunch numbers and enjoy this a little bit, because it took me a couple days to let this win soak in and be realized. What was it like in those final minutes when you realized what was ahead of you guys?
Well, I have a good joke. The next morning in our hotel room, I went down to get Sheree me a latte, and some friends were down there, and I was like, "Holy cow! We've got to do another one of these, and it's got to be really good." And so we all just kind of laughed it off. But as I wrote in my editor's note, I made the decision to not rush what it needed to be, and because I felt like if I did, it would be hurried. So really, on the plane back that morning, I sort of scratched some ideas, but it wasn't till, Thursday, that I had a kind of a outline for not only our sales efforts, but also kind of what the content would begin to look like. And to get back to your question, Sheree and I are going on a little trip tomorrow for a few days, because she also had her big Southern Entrepreneur Conference, which was last week, 3 days. Literally, they were starting it at 1:00 on a Wednesday, and that's when that BI was going live. So we've been wearing lots of hats. So I think it'll be in these towards the end of the week when we're chilling, that I'm really it's gonna sink in that we actually won it all. What do you think, Greg? Have you fully digested it?
Yeah, I guess not really. It's really busy, Josh, on the sideline. As a photographer, I'm busy.
Yeah, I'm actually showing some of these pictures. These are Greg's awesome pictures that you're going to see in this magazine. I just couldn't not stop looking at them this weekend. What is it like on the sidelines? And you talking about you're working and trying to enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard. One of the hardest things for me is when something's going on in the field, to keep my eye in the lens and not. I want to look up and watch the play, because through the lens it's a lot different. Just an example, the interception by Ringo that sealed the game. Rob Say got a great shot of that, and my angle to the interception when he actually caught the ball was blocked by players on the field. So you have that issue. It depends on where you are, and so you're always working to try to get a clear shot of what's going on, but it's not always possible. You're talking about when I first thought about winning the championship, and when it was when they were wheeling the viewing platforms for the celebration out onto the field. There was really a little bit of downtime then, and standing next to me for a moment was a student photographer for UGA, and she was crying. And she was that happy, she was, and that's when it struck me that they just won the national championship. It was the first time I really thought about anything other than what was going on inside the camera.
Yeah. Is there one that wasn't in the national championship game, or any images that you felt like were just absolutely one of your favorites this season? I mean, there's a zillion of them in this game alone, but
I sent you the picture of Pickens, catching that pass in the first half. That was probably my best photo of the game. It's just one of those situations where he was right in front of me. He was a perfect number of yards out from me, and I got the whole sequence.
Yeah.
But the first one, he's looking back for the ball, over his shoulder, but the ball was cut. I cut the ball off about halfway, so that one wasn't that great. And so as you go through the sequence, the one that I sent you is the one that everything came together at the right time for me.
I can't imagine. I mean, like I'm a focus puller in movies by trade, and that's my job. I have one job when the cameras are rolling, and it's to keep stuff in focus. I don't know how in the world you guys do this stuff, and it's because that image there is sharp as a tack, and it's you're probably 400 millimeters.
It's 400 millimeters and about 40 yards, I guess.
Yeah, it's beautiful work. Vance, you're not only a publisher, but you're also part of the credentialed media that covers the Bulldogs. I mean, you've been there. We've heard your questions since, post G-Day all the way through fall camp and this season. Anything that jumps out at you from getting to talk to some of the staff and the players that just what it seemed like they were on a mission. They were all on the same page, which is what it takes. Any notes or stories that you can share with us from those days?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone back to it several times, but I think, the early Kirby had a press conference in March of last year, and it was kind of like, I guess it was by default, it was kind of a hey, spring practice is going to start. But that's when he started, and I remember writing it down. He started talking about stuff like, what's my why? And like, I wrote it down and I was like, does he mean why as like chromosome Y? Because it was, from Kirby, it was a little bit, but it was all part of what, they hired a specific, a person to kind of help.
Yeah, there's skull sessions, right?
Yeah. And, but that was the beginning of it. And I'll say from that point forward, and I give a lot of credit to the year before. I think Kirby with the media, because of Zoom, was really beneficial for all of us. I think he's like any coach. He can get a little testy. So my joke was, well, now that he's not in the room with those guys and just got off the hot practice field and they're basically trying to get in what they need to get in. Sometimes there's some zingers. The fact that he can no longer like physically want to kill them, I think it helped. And wouldn't you agree, Greg, that, Kirby was this last year, I think that was part of his own growth process, was to have a wee bit more patience with the media. And I think technology and Zoom, not physically being in there, like I said, after being on the field for 2.5 hours, I think it helped everything.
I agree. Yeah. The patience may wear a little thin on a press conference after a practice when he's in the summer, especially when it's about 110 degrees. But yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think you're right. I mean, it seemed like the answers were much more like relaxed and comfortable. Like maybe I don't know. I listened to a lot of the press conferences, so you might be onto something. I think the traditional media probably hated the Zooms, but I don't know. It doesn't. I think it's proven it to a lot of people. You don't have to be face to face. Sometimes you have an important meeting, get done and get done what you got to get.
Yeah, and then I think a couple of days later after this March I was talking about, we got Lewis Seen was one of the people we got, and we at that point we hadn't talked much to him. I'm pretty sure about that. So at this point blank said, "Hey, Lewis, what's your why?" And suddenly you realize that guy is a very deep cerebral dude. And I think he has a kid, a young child. So suddenly, it kind of made you realize that what they were doing, getting to know each other deeper, was working, because his answer to that question was like blew me away. Of course he had to get his hair out of his face to answer you. But, suddenly you're like, hey, that there's, and I think that was the point of all of what Kirby and the whole team was doing, was to get themselves sort of out of, we're just football players trying to win games. We're a big family, and the more we know and the more we're connected, the results are going to be better. So, in the end, that was our final cover headline, was 2021 Connected, because in the end we all connected and we won a title. So in my opinion, that was an easy cover. A, we got the year in, and B, we got the connected element that was so instrumental in the process of winning this year's national championship.
Yeah, it is. It's right there in the cover of the edition that I'm just showing everybody, and showing this beautiful work. It's over 160 pages of coverage analysis and pictures. I mean, and you guys cranked this bad boy out in just under a month. So
Actually, it was 10 days.
10 days. Yeah, I guess the publisher took their sweet time, but yeah, it's available. I've got it on the info over this YouTube heading. Go to bulldawgillustrated.com. You can find details there, and I'm sure it's on the Twitter, wherever you need this, because you got to have it. So tell us more about where folks can get this edition and how, and tell us more about it, because it's awesome.
Yeah, well, we've always delivered BI in our 3 primary markets for just complimentary pickup: Athens, Macon, and the Golden Isles, so St. Simons, Brunswick. Unfortunately, the ones we put out last week, I'm already hearing they're gone.
Oh, I'm sure.
And we hope people were kind to their neighbor and didn't take the whole stack, but there's really no way we could control what the public is doing. So that's when we decided, well, let's hold some back and offer them for sale. And the easiest way is that link. We're offering them as singles, or people can save a little bit more money buying them in a 5-pack and a 10-pack.
That's awesome. And how much are they?
30. Greg Poole had this awesome idea. We floated everything from 34 to Herschel to 41 for the 41 years, and then he nailed it. $33.18 gets you a 1, and then I'd already kind of come up with, again, playing around with the 21. $121 gets you a 5-pack, so that's probably $8 off of that.
So yeah, go in with your buddies. You can save a little money, and also
and then the 10-pack, which that comes in at like $221, so you're only paying $21. So
it's really awesome. Greg, you were one of the reasons this magazine looks so great. What are some of any sideline stories? You talked about getting that shot of Pickens and stuff. Anything else from that celebration? I mean, like I was asking you before we got on, it's got to be hard. I mean, you're a lifelong Georgia fan. You've been one of the original bloggers with the Leather Helmet blog, so you've been around this program. You're definitely cheering for him. Tell me about the celebration. What was it like being down there on the field?
It was really great after they let us go. What happened was they always do this at these national games, that they bring out a platform, a multi-tiered platform for photographers to stand on and shoot the ceremony over the heads of the players who are right in front of the Smart and the trophy and all that. Well, we're up on this one. There were 2 out there. I'm on one of them. It broke. The wheel fell off on the right side, and the photographers who were over that way were jumping off the thing to keep from falling off, with their cameras and gear and stuff. So got off that and then tried to shoot from ground level at the ceremony, but then they finally just gave up. The security gave up and just let us go. So we were able to mix in with the players, and they were all smoking cigars and coming and asking you to take their picture, which is not their usual stance. And so it was really just wild, and it was great. It was a true celebration in any sense that you can call it. It was really nice, and the players were, I don't know, they just seemed fulfilled. If that's this is what we worked for. And we did it.
Yeah, I mean, they came in with that chip on their shoulder after the SEC championship. You could tell that I don't know if their ego was damaged or what, or that game seemed to be thank goodness, the outlier in this season, because that was not the same Bulldogs team that we had seen for the 12 games before that, and certainly came out in the Orange Bowl and looked like the Georgia team we knew. So yeah, I mean, what's amazing is you hear from ESPN announcers to anybody that was at the game of Georgia fans just literally openly weeping at the when we finally got this done. I get the sense that the players know that, but they were there for themselves and then each other. And some of these pictures you got, that certainly comes across. And Kirby's got such a great program in terms of making these football players young men, and that we can be proud of as University of Georgia fans and stuff. So it was just really awesome. And this magazine certainly captures that, the celebrations from the fans that went there. It was just really great work. And I would please check this get a copy of this for yourselves. You'll be looking at this for years and years to come.
Well, Josh, I got a good story from being in the bleachers with the fans. A banker friend of mine, his granddaughter happened to be sitting right next to me, and to say she, the officiating that seemed to go in Alabama's favor as usual. This young lady was beside herself when, the Stetson, although when I look at it, I think they may have gotten that crazy sequence of events right. I mean,
yeah, I think
it's hard to believe that a fumble could go 15 yards forward, but I think it did, because it was out of Stetson's hand and then his arm projected it forward. And the fact that Alabama guy just casually brings it in with one arm.
I was completely cool, calm, and collected that entire sequence. I promise.
So this little girl, she completely lost it there. I mean, like screeching to a point that her dad had to like kind of say, "Okay, that we gotta." So I look at her and I was like, "It's gonna be all right. I'm telling you, it's gonna be all right." And thankfully it was. And she and her dad and brother, I guess it was, took a photo of them, number one. And I laughed.
Never in doubt. Never.
Only those in that little section know how unglued she was there for a minute.
Josh, I don't remember if it was the play that Vance was talking about or not, but there had been several calls in the first half that Georgia fans disagreed with, to put it mildly. But at one point, and I think it might have been this play that Vance was talking about, I'm in the end zone, and first a beer can comes right over my head, turning like this, is spraying beer everywhere, lands in the end zone. And of course, my camera gets beer on it, and I'm freaking out. So I move back up against the retaining wall, so that when the subsequent beer cans started coming in, there were a bunch of them.
That's a pro move right there.
I'm hoping that they don't hit me as much. At least that wall maybe will block some of it off. I still got some, but that was pretty shocking to me. I'd never seen Georgia fans get that excited, maybe about a ref's call. I've heard plenty of boos, but I've never seen stuff thrown on the field. It was a little scary at the time, because you didn't know what was coming.
It's hard to throw Ziploc baggies full of Crown Royal too. They don't really travel as far. So,
and why on earth they sold beer in cans is beyond me.
I love it. But I think that moment collectively, as a Georgia fan, you were once again thinking, this is happening to us again. The calls aren't, and when you look back, some of the, Georgia had a lot of penalties that were penalties. But I think when you're in that, when you were there and the past, the block punt, that the call that game probably would have gotten wide open had that call been correct. We probably won the title that year. I'm sorry, I believe that.
Oh, absolutely. That was a game changer. I'm not sure Tua finishes the game.
Exactly. So for the Georgia fans to do that, it wasn't shocking, because you really did feel like, holy cow, they're going to take this. But I will, getting back to, and I haven't had much time to talk about the game, but getting back to Greg's photo of Pickens, that was really Alabama's only break they got of the game, because if that ball is thrown in stride, that's a touchdown.
That's a TD, yeah.
And of course, we only got 3 there, but Georgia finally got breaks in that game. There was, give Bryce Young, he put some balls that probably should have been caught that could have gone the other way. So, I like to remind everybody that for once, for 41 years, we haven't gotten any calls. We hadn't gotten any breaks. That game, we got breaks, which helped the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like you kind of maybe make your own breaks. But maybe what's this defense was definitely a game changer, and they never considered themselves out of it. They were ready to battle back and to end it, to start the year with a pick six and end it with a pick six. I think is something we're going to remember, and sort of anecdote that we're going to remember about this team for a long, long time.
And I mean, the whole Alabama to 18 points, nobody would have thought that was even possible.
Yeah, I had the number of 25 was the game I thought that Kirby needed to beat Alabama. I held them to 25, but yeah, to hold them to 18, and yeah, we got after him the whole time, and they weren't 100%, but no team's 100%, and so we're not going to talk about the two guys that weren't there, because there were a lot of guys that were on the field that got it done for us.
Yeah.
All right, Vance, you tell me that you're going on vacation and a well-deserved break, but Bulldawg Nation never really rests. We're already freaking out about transfer portals and national signing days, and before we know it, G-Days are around the corner. We can't really think about basketball too much right now. What is next for you guys in terms of the football program, and what can when are you getting back to it? Because we want to know the two deep quick.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this year going, here we are February 7th, and we're still talking about the 2021. It definitely tells you that it never stops now. Greg and I were on a call yesterday, and, I was like, are we sure we can do this every year? He's like, well, it looks like we're going to be in the hunt, and
yeah.
I think what's next is, Stetson coming back, I love it. I mean, immediately our offense has stability. I mean, what's not like to have that much experience come back, that hopefully this year the offense is going to carry, that, young, defense. We got a lot of holes. We're going to be like Alabama was this past year, where remarkably they got all the way back to the championship game despite losing all those amazing players to the NFL. A lot of them offensively. That's the goal. And if you look at the Georgia schedule, it's just like 2021. Again, we've never gotten breaks in 41 years, but the 2021 and the 2022 schedules, to me, those are mighty nice. Still not having to play Ole Miss, not having to play Alabama, LSU. So it's, and who am I missing? A&M. So during the regular season.
Yeah, but Georgia ain't played nobody, Paul, as they say. So.
Hey, I mean, you play who's on your schedule.
Exactly. Clemson's had an easier path for a decade, so you're not going to get any sympathy out of me. Greg, any other stories? And again, be sure to go to BulldawgIllustrated.com. Check the description. We've got the link direct to order this copy of Bulldawg Illustrated, which is, again, just get it, guys. You're going to want to have it. If you don't get it, you're going to see it at your friend's house, and you're going to wish you had it. Greg, take us out of here. Anything else you can tell us about maybe something from this season, or maybe looking forward to our spring?
Yeah, well, in about a month, they're going to start spring practice. We don't know the exact dates yet, but sometime mid-March for sure. So start putting that team back together again. And of course, spring is also going to be the time where we learn, or at least toward the end of spring, who's going to be around in terms of somebody's got to transfer. I understand right now that just from reading on the Georgia web that they are probably over in terms of commitments, over the scholarship number. So you're going to have some people drop out of the transfer probably after spring. And but immediately my focus changes to spring sports, basketball, baseball, softball.
Yeah, and you guys cover it all. Every sport that they have, Georgia Bulldawg Illustrated is on it, from tennis to the baseball team, basketball team, and every day they've got content and coverage, and so be sure to check out BulldawgIllustrated.com for all of that. And yeah, we're baseball team's going to try to recapture some of the magic that was lost in that COVID year, I feel like.
Yeah,
they got them all back. So
yeah.
And Josh, if I can just give Greg, I mean, He's 74 and he's out there in knee pads at a basketball game shooting away, men and women. I mean, he's a stud. And
he's a pro, as they say.
And if I can just say one thing we didn't mention is this issue is hardbound, or it's not a hardback, but it's what's called perfect bound. So, like you were saying, Josh, it's going to hold up. You know, normally during the season, we're held together staple because that's the only way we can have it on the end of the printer on a Sunday and out on the streets on a Tuesday. This process took another 8 days, and you know, as I said, I wanted to wait a few days. That's one of in deciding what this needed to be. That was one of the things I came up with. I was like, I need to get a price to see how much more it costs to make this really a true keepsake. And, you know, and then somebody at Walton Press, I'd be remiss not to say thank you to them, because most printers out there are not letting your files come in at 11:30 on a Sunday and have you a glossy product ready to pick up at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. And they pulled this off in record time. I mean, 8 days from, I got my files to them at 3:30 on a Tuesday, and we were picking it up 8 days later. So
it just means more. It just means more.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us, guys. Please check it out, BulldawgIllustrated.com. You can check the link on the description of the YouTube, and you will take right to the order page. Thank you, guys. And once again, go Dogs.
Thank you.